Well, I'm back sooner than I expected because we have to have a little supplemental conversation to what we discussed earlier regarding the NFL Players Association search for a new executive director. Now, everything I said earlier still applies, but we now know who the new executive director will be. If anything, everything I said earlier applies even more strongly. This confidential search that leads to the hiring of someone that no one had heard of, somebody who is completely beyond the entire NFL ecosystem. Lloyd Howell. I had never heard of him. He comes from a business background. He's got 34 years with Booz Allen Hamilton, a variety of leadership roles, most recently the chief financial officer and treasurer. He led the company's civil and commercial group. He serves on the board of Moody's Corporation and General Electric Healthcare, and is a trustee for the University of Pennsylvania. This doesn't sound like Jimmy Hoffa. This doesn't sound like a union leader. This sounds like a member of management. This sounds like if there was going to be a Manchurian candidate, if the NFL was going to try to slip someone through unknowingly who would be in bed with the owners, this sounds like the dude. Nobody knows how he came to be a candidate. Nobody knows who had the idea to pursue him. Did he pursue the job? Did the job pursue him? Why is this person the executive director? Why was he even one of the finalists? See, they're very proud of the fact that they were able to keep this secret. J.C. Tretter, the NFLPA president, tweeted this: "It is my pleasure to welcome Lloyd Howell as our new executive director. I am proud that our player leadership ran a professional, confidential search for the players by the players. I know Lloyd will lead our union well into the future." Okay. Professional and confidential aren't necessarily synonymous. Certain things need to be confidential. Certain things cross the line from confidential into unnecessarily and improperly secret. And the first question is, did the player representatives know about Lloyd Howell for at least 30 days? Did they know of the total candidates? Because there had to be at least one more. Who was the other candidate? Did the Board of Player Representatives know who the other candidates were, whether one or more than one, for at least 30 days before the vote? Was that provision of the Constitution complied with? Yes or no? Easy question. I asked that question earlier today to the union. Are they complying with this provision in the Constitution? Does it apply? Was it changed? Again, they're not telling us. And I understand this whole thing is about creating an us against the world mentality, circling the wagons. It's very relevant to the way football is often played. It's all about us. Let's shut out the rest of the world. Everybody else is out to get us. There's a point, though, where it goes too far. There's a point where it is so shrouded in secrecy that you don't do justice to the process. Someone else is making the decision, and the decision is being basically forced on everyone else. Who ultimately decided that Lloyd Howell, who has no NFL background, no union background, if anything, is a management person who is going to become a union person after 34 years? Look, I don't know how old this person is, unless we're dealing with a Doogie Howser, though. We're talking about somebody who's about my age, who's going to be the executive director well into the future. We got to do the math here. You want somebody who's going to be executive director well into the future, you better not hire somebody who's got 34 years of service in a completely different industry. And I'm not saying the guy is going to fail. All I'm saying is, who decided that he's the right person? When was the Board of Player Representatives made available the information? Did they comply with the Constitution? Who were the other candidates? Is this going to be a good hire? Is it going to be a bad hire? And what you're going to see now is a lot of wagon circling by the players, because they managed to pull off this idea of keeping the process confidential, keeping it secret, that's a victory in and of itself. And if the objective is, let's hire an executive director as quietly as we possibly can and make sure no one knows who the candidates are, then I guess it counts as a victory. But I don't think that should be the objective. The objective shouldn't be, let's stick a finger in all prying eyes and manage to do a completely and totally confidential search process. That shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be finding the best person for the job. And if it means sacrificing some confidentiality to find the best person for the job, so be it. Because the impression that it creates to me is somebody in this broader process, which apparently wasn't very broad at all, decided that Lloyd Howell's the guy. And in the name of keeping it all secret, they made that decision, and they worked very discreetly to build the coalition, to form the consensus, so just enough players, specifically members of the Board of Player Representatives, would vote for Lloyd Howell. And the information was kept quiet. The information possibly wasn't disseminated as it should have been at least 30 days before the vote. And they were able to pull it off. We pulled it off. That was our victory. No one knew this was coming. Yeah, we surprised everyone. Yeah, okay, great. What kind of a union leader is this person going to be? Is this the best person for the job? Is this person best suited to take over this role well into the future? So you've won the battle of keeping it all secret. How are you going to win the war of having the best possible executive director to go toe-to-toe with Roger Goodell and his successor well into the future with a new CBA looming in 6 or 7 years? Is this going to be someone who flourishes in the job? Or is this going to be someone who eventually does whatever the best deal is that the NFL offers, and is the NFL inclined to offer even less of a deal than what they otherwise would, because they don't perceive Lloyd Howell as the kind of strong union leader that they otherwise would. So I'm stunned by this. I thought it would at least be someone I've heard of. And this may be part of what the union was trying to do. And I understand their concern that you've got people out there in the media maybe working against them. You've got owners that would want to work against them. I think the paranoia got in the way of finding the right person. And maybe Lloyd Howell is the right person, but here's the problem. If you want us in the media to immediately say, hey, you got the right person for the job, you got to get us on board with the idea. If you're going to do something very unconventional, you need to get some people on board with it, and you need people to be preparing the audience, the players generally, for the idea that we're going to do something unconventional, but it's going to be good. Not we're going to do something unconventional and we don't know what's going to happen. So the reaction that a lot of in the media are going to have is, who is this person? Is this the best choice? And did they allow secrecy to get in the way of finding the best possible candidate? I feel like they put way too much stock in keeping it secret, and possibly not enough stock in getting the best possible successor to DeMaurice Smith. Time will tell. And I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to get all the information I can about Lloyd Howell. And I'm going to try to find what in his background after 34 years with Booz Allen would suggest that he's in the best possible position to take over the union right now and moving forward. And apparently DeMaurice Smith is still going to be in charge through the end of 2024. So there's going to be a ramping up process as Lloyd Howell learns the job. Again, that only increases my curiosity about why it was decided that he's the best person for the job. Ideally, you'd want somebody who could take over right away. These are the natural questions, though, that come up when it's just dropped in front of us with no warning, with no advance notice, with no opportunity to figure out who this guy is. They pull the sheet unexpectedly off of someone that no one in the NFL had heard of, other than the people who were privy to that very closely guarded information about who the executive director of the union would be. That's all I'm going to say about it for now. And again, no PFT PM tomorrow. Maybe when I get back from my physical, I'll find time to do something depending upon the developments with this. And I know most fans don't care who's in charge of the NFL Players Association. One of the things I learned over the weekend, there are players out there who didn't even know that DeMaurice Smith is the person in charge of the union. They're not connected. They're not invested. They don't care the way they could or should. That's one of the reasons why this process was able to proceed in extreme secrecy. But for those of us who care about the NFL, there needs to be a balance between the league and the union. And if it gets too far out of balance, it sets the stage for labor problems that can impact the playing of the games and that can impact our enjoyment of the sport. And we all want to have a sport to cover. We all want to have a sport to enjoy. And I think it all flows from, if there's going to be a unionized workforce, it flows from having a union that is able to stand up to the league on a constant basis and fight for everything that the players deserve on every issue, financially, health and safety, anything and everything. And it's in the union's best interest not to have a secret process, but to have a successful process that leads them to the right person who will have the proper understanding of the game, not be learning it on the fly, the proper understanding of the game, how the business works, how the league works, and how to stand up to the NFL and push back against the league. I need to know, don't we all need to know what it was that they saw in Lloyd Howell that makes them think he's the one to take up that slingshot against Goliath? And maybe he is, but the rest of us don't know. Now the challenge for the union becomes helping us all understand exactly what they saw in Lloyd Howell that made him the best candidate. So the rest of us can say, yeah, hey, Roger Goodell better run and hide when Lloyd Howell walks through the door, because now he's met his match and the union's got a voice that's going to push back, and there's going to be grass fields everywhere. And we're going to do something about guaranteed contracts, and we're going to do something about the franchise tag, and we're going to do something about this, and we're going to do something about that. And the NFL's got a problem now because there's a new sheriff in town and his name is Lloyd Howell. We don't know that. We can't even begin to come to that conclusion. So that's going to be what I begin to try to find out in the coming hours and days. And whatever it is, I'll ask the union, give me everything that you need for me to know about Lloyd Howell and how he got this job and why you believe he's the person to take this union through the next decade, the rest of this decade, and into the new collective bargaining agreement, the negotiation of which will be here before we know it. That's it for now. Thanks as always for some of your time. Check out profootballtalk.com for updates on this and every other story currently happening in the NFL. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.